The crimson soil crunched beneath Marcus Holden's boots as he ventured beyond the designated safe zone of Proxima Centauri's fourth moon. The survey team's warnings echoed in his mind, but 20 years of space exploration had taught him that the most significant discoveries happened where others feared to tread. "Command's not going to like this, Captain," came Eliza's crackling voice through his helmet comm, "thermal anomalies all over that region. It's not on our mission parameters." Marcus smirked. "Log it as an equipment check. I'll be back before they notice." The landscape shifted as he traveled deeper into the restricted area, jagged crystalline formations jutting from the ground like frozen flames, pulsing with an internal light that defied scientific explanation. His suit sensors detected complex organic compounds that shouldn't exist in this environment, readings that would make his name in the scientific community back home. The narrow canyon opened to a clearing where the impossible stood before him, a structure of twisted, living metal that spiraled upward, surrounded by hovering orbs of liquid light. And at its center, a figure. She was humanoid but clearly alien, tall and lithe with skin that shifted between deep violet and midnight blue. Silver markings flowed across her exposed arms like constellations, and her eyes held the cold fire of distant stars. Around her, energy pulsed in rhythmic waves that made Marcus's suit sensors scream in protest. He should have retreated. He should have observed from a distance. Instead, curiosity and ambition drove him forward. "Hello," he called out, activating his suit's translation matrix. "I come from Earth. I mean no harm." The alien woman's movements halted mid-gesture. The floating orbs froze in place, their light dimming as she turned to face the intruder. Her expression shifted from surprise to cold fury. "You disturbed the alignment," she said, her voice somehow bypassing his comm system and resonating directly in his mind. "The convergence comes once in 7 generations. You have broken what cannot be mended." Marcus raised his hands in a placating gesture. "I'm a scientist, an explorer. I didn't know. Perhaps I can help." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Help? Your kind always believes you can meddle without consequence. You believe yourselves masters of forces you cannot comprehend." "Now wait," Marcus stepped forward, scientific arrogance overriding caution. "If you just explain what you're doing, maybe we could collaborate. I have technology that might." Silence. The word struck like physical force, making him stagger backward. "You are nothing but a child playing with fire. Let me show you what real fire is, Marcus Holden of Earth." How did she know his name? He had no time to wonder as she glided toward him, her feet never touching the ground. "I am Nixera, keeper of the void flame. You who have trespassed on sacred ground shall carry my mark." Her hand reached out, passing impossibly through his helmet and suit to touch his chest. Pain exploded outward from the point of contact, not the cold burn of vacuum exposure but something deeper, as if his very atoms were being rewritten. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. "What have you done?" "I have given you a gift," Nixera said, her voice almost gentle now. "A slow fire that medical science cannot quench. It will consume you gradually, teaching patience to one who has none." She leaned closer. "When you have learned humility, when you understand what you have broken here today, then perhaps you may return to seek mercy." 3 weeks later, Earth's most advanced medical facility had no answers for Marcus's condition. The burning had spread throughout his body, invisible to scans yet undeniably present. Each specialist shook their head, each new treatment failed. In his fevered dreams, Nixera's voice whispered, "Return to me, arrogant one. Only I hold your cure." And Marcus knew, with growing desperation, that he would have to do just that. The stolen shuttle hummed beneath Marcus's trembling fingers as he guided it toward the forbidden moon. 6 months had passed since his encounter with Nixera, 6 months of deteriorating health and failed treatments. The military medical board had declared him unfit for duty. His colleagues, once admirers, now avoided him, unsettled by the unnatural gleam in his eyes when the pain peaked. Approaching orbital insertion, the automated system announced. Warning, this region is classified as extreme hazard by Earth Alliance Command. Marcus silenced the alerts. He'd stolen medication, forged clearances, and abandoned his life on Earth for this desperate gamble. The burning within him had intensified, spreading like dark tendrils through his nervous system. Last week, he'd noticed faint silvery lines appearing on his forearms, an echo of the witch's own markings. Landing in the Crimson Desert stirred memories of his first visit. How arrogant he'd been, how certain of his invulnerability. Now he moved slowly, each step deliberate as he navigated toward the canyon where he'd encountered Nixra. His environmental suit was unnecessary, he discovered, the moon's atmosphere didn't harm him. Perhaps the curse had already changed him too much for that. The sacred site looked abandoned. The spiraling metal structure stood dormant, no luminous orbs hovered in the air. Had she left? The possibility sent a spike of panic through him. Nixra. His voice echoed across the empty clearing. I've returned. You said I could seek mercy. Silence answered him. Marcus fell to his knees, the alien soil cool against his palms. Please, he whispered, pride long abandoned. I'm dying. Are you? The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Or are you merely changing? She materialized like smoke condensing into form, her starlit skin shifting hues in the dim light. Nixra circled him slowly, studying his deterioration with clinical interest. The arrogant explorer returns, she observed. Tell me, did your scientists solve my little puzzle? Marcus shook his head. They tried everything. One of them even suggested putting me in stasis until they could find a cure. There is no cure, Nixra said, kneeling to face him. Not as you understand it. What flows through you now is ancient magic, older than your species' first awkward steps toward the stars. Then why tell me to return? Anger flared beneath his desperation. To watch me beg before I die. Her laugh was like crystal chimes in the wind. Death is merely one possibility, Marcus Holden. When I said mercy, I meant transformation. She placed her hand on his chest where she had first touched him. Instead of pain, this time he felt a cooling sensation, momentary respite from the burning. I can teach you to live with the fire, she continued. To channel it, control it, perhaps even master it. But such teaching requires commitment. Submission. Are you prepared for that? I'll do anything, he said without hesitation. Just make the pain stop. Nixra's eyes narrowed. Anything? Consider carefully. The price is not pain, but freedom. You would be bound to me, to learn my ways, to serve my purposes. Marcus thought of Earth, the sterile hospital rooms, the pitying glances, the endless tests leading nowhere. What waited for him there but a slow, agonizing end? I accept your terms, he said. Teach me to survive. A smile curved her lips. Very well. First lesson, the pain you feel is resistance. Your human nature fights against the transformation. Surrender to it instead. She guided him to stand and led him deeper into the canyon, to where the rock faces narrowed until they opened into a vast cavern. Crystalline structures similar to the ritual site filled the space, but these pulsed with life and purpose. Strange flora grew from crevices, emitting soft bioluminescence. This is my sanctuary, Nixra explained. Few outsiders have seen it. Fewer still have lived to remember. At the center stood a pool of shimmering liquid that was neither water nor any substance Marcus recognized. Its surface rippled though nothing disturbed it. Remove your human garments, she commanded. They carry Earth's energies and interfere with what must be done. Pride long surrendered to necessity, Marcus stripped away his flight suit. The silver markings had spread further across his chest and down his legs. Good, Nixra nodded. Now enter the pool. It will not harm you, unless you resist. Marcus stepped into the liquid, expecting either heat or cold, but found it matched his exact body temperature, as if it were an extension of himself. He submerged fully, and for the first time since Nyxera had cursed him, the burning sensation receded. When he surfaced, he found Nyxera watching him with new interest. "The essence accepts you," she said. "That is unexpected. Perhaps you are worthier than I first believed." "What happens now?" Marcus asked, suddenly aware of his vulnerability. "Now," she replied, her form beginning to glow with internal light, "your education begins. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we forge the first true bond between your kind and mine in 1,000 years." As Marcus drifted into exhausted sleep that night in a chamber Nyxera had provided, he felt the burning diminish further, not gone, but transformed into something almost pleasurable, like the satisfying ache after strenuous exercise. What he didn't notice was how the silver lines on his skin pulsed in rhythm with the crystals surrounding him, or how his dreams no longer traveled to Earth, but deeper into the strange cosmos that lived behind Nyxera's star-filled eyes. Again, Nyxera commanded, her voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. "Focus your energy not through your mind, but through your entire being." Marcus stood at the center of a circle of hovering light orbs, sweat beading on his forehead as he stretched out his hand. The silver markings on his skin had spread further, now tracing intricate patterns across his chest and spiraling down his arms. 3 weeks had passed since he'd begun his training with the alien witch, 3 weeks of grueling lessons that pushed beyond physical and mental limits. "I can't," he gasped, dropping to one knee. The burning within him flared in response to his frustration. Nyxera glided forward, her midnight blue skin shimmering with constellations. "The fire rises when you resist. How many times must I teach you this? Surrender to it." "Easy for you to say," Marcus snapped. "You're not the one burning from the inside out." In an instant, she was before him, fingers gripping his chin with surprising strength. "Do you believe I don't know pain, human? I have endured torments that would reduce your kind to ash." Her eyes, those endless voids of starlight, bore into his. "The difference between us is that I learned to transform suffering into power." She released him and stepped back. "Perhaps I was wrong about you. Perhaps you lack the capacity to transcend your limitations." The dismissal in her voice stung worse than the curse. Marcus pushed himself to his feet, drawing on reserves he didn't know he possessed. "Show me again," he said, voice steadier now. A hint of approval flickered across Nyxera's face. "The energy flows through pathways in your body that your science has no name for. Stop trying to direct it with your thoughts alone. Feel it as an extension of yourself." Marcus closed his eyes, focusing on the burning sensation that had been his constant companion for months. Instead of fighting against it, he imagined it as a current, a river of energy flowing through the silver pathways on his skin. When he extended his hand this time, heat gathered at his fingertips, condensing into a small sphere of pulsing light. "Better," Nyxera said, circling him. "Now maintain it while I show you something." She guided him through the sanctuary to a chamber he hadn't seen before. The walls were lined with what appeared to be viewing portals, windows that showed not the barren landscape outside, but glimpses of other worlds, other realities. "Your Earth," she said, gesturing to one portal that showed a familiar blue-green sphere. "They're looking for you, you know. Your commander Jeffries has launched a search operation. They believe you've been abducted or suffered a psychotic break due to your condition." Marcus stared at the image of Earth, surprised to feel so little attachment. "They wouldn't understand what's happening to me." "No," Nyxera agreed. "They would fear it. Fear you, as you are becoming." She moved closer, her presence both intimidating and intoxicating. "Which is why your submission must be complete. Half measures will only lead to destruction, yours and possibly theirs." She placed her hand over the light sphere he still maintained, her touch sending electric pulses up his arm. The sensation was intense, bordering between pain and pleasure. There is power in surrender, Marcus. Tonight, I will show you. That evening, Nyxera led him to a new chamber where crystal formations created a natural amphitheater around a central platform. She directed him to lay upon it while she began a complex ritual, moving in patterns that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around them. Your body fights transformation because your spirit clings to old identities, she explained as she worked. Tonight we sever those final ties. She approached with a vial of luminescent fluid. Drink. It will open channels that have remained closed. Marcus hesitated only briefly before accepting the vial. The liquid burned going down, but unlike the curse's fire, this heat spread with waves of pleasure that made him gasp. The silver markings on his skin began to glow, pulsing in rhythm with Nyxera's movements. The vessel prepares, she murmured, placing her hands on his chest. Where once her touch had brought agony, now it sent cascades of sensation through his nervous system. Now surrender yourself completely to me. What followed transcended physical experience. Marcus felt Nyxera's consciousness intertwine with his own, her ancient knowledge flooding his mind in waves that threatened to drown his sense of self. He should have been terrified, should have fought against this invasion, but instead he embraced it, yielding control as she had taught him. Somewhere distant, he heard himself cry out, not in pain but in ecstasy as the boundaries between them temporarily dissolved. In that moment of complete submission, the curse's fire transformed, becoming a source of power rather than torment. When awareness returned, Marcus found himself changed. The silver markings now glowed softly even without effort, and when he moved, echoes of light trailed his fingers. More significantly, the constant pain had diminished to a manageable warmth. "What did you do to me?" he asked, voice hoarse. Nyxera observed him with newfound respect. "I bound your energy to mine. The transformation will proceed more harmoniously now." She traced one of the glowing lines on his chest. "You're no longer fully human, Marcus Holden. Does that frighten you?" Strangely, it didn't. "I stopped being fully human the moment you cursed me," he replied. "At least now I might survive it." "More than survive," she corrected. "But our work has only begun. The binding is temporary. For permanent transformation, deeper submission will be required." As if to emphasize her point, a distant alarm sounded from one of the viewing portals. Nyxera glided to it, her expression darkening. "It seems your people are more resourceful than I anticipated. They've tracked your shuttle's signature." She turned to face him, challenge in her star-filled eyes. "Earth comes for their lost son. The question is, do you still wish to be found?" Marcus looked down at his transformed body, at the power now flowing through him, and realized with startling clarity that he no longer knew the answer. The Earth vessels appeared as distant specks on the horizon, their engines burning hot against the crimson sky. Marcus watched their approach from the highest spire of Nyxera's sanctuary, his enhanced vision capable of discerning details that would have required advanced equipment only months ago. "Lieutenant Rivera and Captain West," he murmured, recognizing the pilot's signatures. "They brought the experimental medical unit." Nyxera materialized beside him, her form shimmering like heat distortion. "Your former colleagues are persistent. They believe they come to save you. And you believe they come to destroy me." It wasn't a question. After 2 months under Nyxera's tutelage, Marcus had learned to sense her thoughts, an unintended consequence of their binding ritual. "They come with good intentions," she conceded, "but they cannot comprehend what you are becoming. To them, it would appear as contamination, infection, something to be excised." Marcus couldn't deny the truth in her words. The silver pathways now covered his entire body, pulsing with energy that occasionally manifested as visible light beneath his skin. His eyes had changed too, the whites now faintly luminescent, pupils contracting to star-shaped points in bright light. Even his voice carried harmonics that normal human vocal cords couldn't produce. "I need to face them," he decided. At least explain. Nixera's expression hardened. They will try to separate you from me, to reverse the transformation. Are you prepared for the consequences if they succeed? Marcus hadn't considered that possibility. What would happen? The binding between us sustains you through the transformation. Break it prematurely, and the curse resumes its original purpose, to consume you. She placed a hand on his chest, where it all began. You would suffer far worse than before. Then I'll make them understand that. She laughed, a sound like wind through crystal. Humans fear what they cannot categorize. Your Dr. Levitt already has theories about alien parasitic infection, to explain your disappearance and condition. The name startled Marcus. Amara is with them. She wasn't part of the original mission. The xenobiologist who once shared your bed. Nixera's voice carried an edge he'd never heard before. Yes, she joined the rescue operation. Her presence complicates matters. Marcus felt an unfamiliar tension between them. Was it possible that Nixera, this cosmic being of immense power, felt something akin to jealousy? My past life doesn't matter anymore, he said, surprising himself with how true the words felt. But I can't let them risk themselves chasing a ghost. I need to tell them to leave. Nixera studied him, the stars in her eyes swirling with consideration. Very well. But first, you must complete the next phase of your transformation. What comes next cannot be undone, Marcus. It will alter you in ways even I cannot fully predict. She led him deep into the sanctuary, to a chamber he'd never seen before. Unlike the crystalline structures of the other rooms, this space contained what appeared to be a living organism, a massive, pulsating entity that filled the ceiling and walls, its surface covered with luminous veins similar to Marcus's markings. The heart of Nixera, she explained. Not my heart, but my ancestors, the first to bear my name and power. It has sustained our line for millennia. It's alive. In a sense beyond your comprehension. It exists simultaneously across multiple planes of reality. She guided him to stand before a recess in the entity. If you truly wish to complete your transformation, to survive independent of our binding, you must commune with it directly. Marcus hesitated. What exactly will happen? Your remaining humanity will be reconfigured. The silver pathways will become permanent conduits for cosmic energy. You will neither be human nor my kind, but something unique. She touched his face with unexpected gentleness. You would be the first of your kind to achieve this state willingly. There were others. Unwilling. A shadow crossed her features. Long ago. The results were unfortunate. The implications hung between them, unspoken but clear. This was a gamble with his very existence. And if I succeed? Then you may face your rescuers as an equal being, not as a victim of my curse. Whatever you choose then, to return to Earth or remain here, would truly be your choice. The distant alarm signaled that the Earth vessels had entered orbit. Time was running short. Do it, Marcus said, facing the heart. I'm ready. Nixera placed her hands on his shoulders, guiding him into the recess. The living entity pulsed faster as he approached, as if anticipating contact. Remember what I taught you. Surrender completely. Any resistance now could be fatal. Marcus closed his eyes as tendrils from the heart reached for him, making contact with the silver pathways on his skin. The sensation began gently, a tingling warmth that quickly intensified to something beyond normal perception. It wasn't pain, exactly, but an overwhelming pressure as if every cell in his body was being examined and rewritten. In his mind's eye, he witnessed eons of cosmic history unfold, the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, the slow dance of celestial bodies across the void. Knowledge flooded his consciousness, too vast to comprehend yet somehow integrating with his being. He saw Nixera's lineage stretching back through countless generations, each keeper of the void flame passing knowledge to the next. And he understood, finally, why she had cursed him that day. Not out of malice, but necessity. The ritual he had interrupted was meant to select her successor, someone worthy of carrying the knowledge of her dying race forward. His interruption had forced her hand, making him an unwitting candidate. When the communion ended, Marcus collapsed to the floor. His body felt simultaneously heavier and lighter, as if he now perceived his own mass differently. When he opened his eyes, Nyxera gasped. "It is done," she whispered, helping him stand. "Look." She guided him to a reflective crystal surface. The man, the being, who stared back at him was both familiar and foreign. His skin now permanently held a faint bluish undertone, the silver pathways no longer visible because they had become part of his cellular structure. His eyes held the same starlight as Nyxera's, though flecks of his original brown remained. "What am I now?" he asked, his voice resonating with new harmonics. "You are touched by the void," Nyxera said. "Neither human nor Nyxeran, but something new. Something unexpected." The alarm sounded again, more urgently. "They've landed," Marcus said, somehow knowing this without needing instruments. "It's time to face them." As they ascended toward the surface, Nyxera spoke words that would have once terrified him but now filled him with strange anticipation. "Whatever you decide, Marcus Holden, you can never truly return to what you were. The question now is, which world will you choose?" The Earth rescue team established their perimeter at the mouth of the canyon, equipment humming as they scanned for biological hazards. Captain West directed operations from the command shuttle while Dr. Amara Levitt prepared the mobile medical unit, her face tense with concentration. 3 armed security officers swept the area, their weapons charged for any potential threat. "Bio readings are off the charts," Captain, Lieutenant Rivera reported, adjusting her scanner. "Definitely picking up human DNA, but it's altered. Significantly." "Hostiles?" West asked, hand hovering near his sidearm. "Inconclusive. There's another life form nearby, completely foreign to our databases." Dr. Levitt looked up from her equipment. "If Marcus has been exposed to unknown biological agents for this long, we need to assume severe contamination. Quarantine protocols are mandatory." A voice echoed from the canyon walls, carrying strange harmonic undertones that made their sensors fluctuate wildly. "That won't be necessary, Amara." The team turned as Marcus emerged from the shadows, Nyxera gliding silently beside him. The security officers immediately raised their weapons, but Captain West signaled them to hold fire, his expression frozen in shock. "Marcus?" Amara stepped forward, medical scanner extended. "My God, what happened to you?" He stood before them, a being caught between worlds. Though his form remained humanoid, the bluish undertone of his skin and the starlight in his eyes marked him as something beyond human. When he moved, faint energy signatures rippled across his body. "I've been changed," he said simply. "Transformed." "It's a parasitic infection," Amara insisted, scanner beeping frantically as she approached. "We've developed a treatment based on your previous medical data. We can reverse this, Marcus." Captain West eyed Nyxera warily. "Is this the entity that abducted you? We're prepared to extract you by force if necessary." Marcus smiled faintly. "She didn't abduct me, Captain. I came back voluntarily, seeking a cure for what your science couldn't fix. And she experimented on you instead," Amara's voice cracked with emotion. "This isn't you, Marcus. The real you would never consent to becoming this." "The real me was dying," Marcus countered. "What she offered wasn't experimentation but evolution." Nyxera remained silent, observing the exchange with ancient patience. Her presence alone caused the rescue team's equipment to malfunction sporadically, reality bending slightly around her. Lieutenant Rivera stepped closer to Marcus, her scientific curiosity overcoming caution. "Your cellular structure, it's incorporating elements I've never seen before. The energy readings are similar to cosmic background radiation, but intensified and somehow directed. This shouldn't be possible. Many things once thought impossible become merely improbable when you expand your understanding, Marcus said. His gaze returned to Amara, seeing the pain and determination in her eyes. They had once planned a future together, before his reckless ambition led him to this moon. That life now seemed to belong to someone else. "We have orders to bring you home," Captain West stated firmly. "Earth Alliance believes your knowledge and condition are vital to understanding potential extraterrestrial threats. So I'd be a research subject," Marcus concluded. "Quarantined and studied. You'd be treated," Amara insisted. "Helped. And what about Nixera?" Marcus asked. "Would she be studied as well?" The captain's silence was answer enough. Marcus felt Nixera's consciousness brush against his, a reminder of their connection without words. They fear what they cannot control. It has always been thus with your kind. "I appreciate that you came for me," Marcus said, genuine gratitude in his voice. "But I need you to understand something." He extended his hand, conjuring a sphere of energy that illuminated the darkening canyon. "What's happened to me can't be reversed. Your treatment would destroy me, not save me." Amara stepped forward, tears glistening. "We've spent months developing this cure. Your cellular samples responded positively. Please, Marcus, at least let us try." For a moment, Marcus wavered. The love they once shared still resonated within him, a fragment of his humanity that the transformation hadn't erased. He glanced at Nixera, whose expression remained unreadable to the humans but spoke volumes to him. "Show them," she said, breaking her silence. "Show them the truth, then decide." Understanding her meaning, Marcus nodded. He approached Amara and gently took her scanner, modifying its settings with knowledge that would have been incomprehensible to him months ago. When he returned it, the device displayed his complete biological signature. "This is me now, Amara. Look closely at the cellular structure. Your treatment targets what you believe is an infection, but those same elements are now integrated with my consciousness, my very being." He pointed to specific readings. Suppressing these pathways would cause neural collapse. Amara studied the data, her scientific mind processing what her heart didn't want to accept. "You're right," she finally whispered. "The treatment would kill you." Captain West stepped forward. "Even so, we have orders to bring you back. Your transformation could provide critical insights for Earth's security." "As a specimen? A cautionary example?" Marcus shook his head. "I can't return to Earth, not as I am now. My presence there would cause complications." "Then what?" Amara demanded. "You'll stay here with her. Abandon humanity completely?" Marcus felt the weight of the moment, of lives balanced on the edge of decision. "There's a third option." He turned to Nixera. "We discussed it earlier. The possibility of becoming a bridge between worlds." Nixera nodded, addressing the humans directly for the first time. "Your kind ventures into the cosmos with admirable courage but dangerous ignorance. There are beings and forces beyond your current comprehension. Some, like myself, are merely different. Others would consider your existence a temporary inconvenience. Are you threatening us?" Captain West's hand moved toward his weapon. Offering perspective, Marcus interjected. "And a proposal. I can't return to Earth permanently, but I could serve as an intermediary, someone who understands both worlds." "An ambassador," Lieutenant Rivera suggested, her scientific mind grasping the implications. "More than that," Marcus replied. "A translator of realities." He turned to Nixera. "With your permission." She considered for a moment, the stars in her eyes swirling with ancient calculations. It would be unprecedented. But perhaps necessary. The boundaries between realities grow thinner. Encounters will increase. "You'd come back with us temporarily?" Amara asked, hope flaring briefly. For short periods, Marcus clarified. I would need to return here regularly to stabilize. But I could help prepare Earth for what lies beyond your current understanding. The universe is vaster and more populated than you realize. Captain West frowned. I don't have authority to negotiate terms like this. Then take my proposal back to Earth Alliance, Marcus suggested. Let them decide if knowledge of the cosmos is worth accepting me as I am now. A tense silence fell as the captain considered the options. Finally, he nodded curtly. We'll transmit your proposal. Until we receive a response, we maintain position. As the rescue team withdrew to their vessels to communicate with Earth, Amara lingered behind. Was there truly no other way? She asked quietly. Marcus gazed at the stars emerging in the darkening sky. Sometimes transformation isn't a choice but a necessity. I crossed boundaries I didn't understand, and this is the consequence. He looked at Nixera, their shared consciousness flowing with unspoken understanding. But I've gained perspective few humans will ever experience. And us? What we had planned. Amara's voice was barely audible. That future belonged to someone I no longer am, he answered gently. But perhaps we can create a different kind of connection, one that benefits both our worlds. As Amara rejoined her team, Marcus turned to Nixera. Did I choose correctly? He asked. There is no correct choice in matters of destiny, she replied, her hand finding his. Only paths that align more closely with who you are becoming. Together they watched the Earth vessels, bright against the alien sky. Marcus felt the cosmic energy flowing through his transformed body, neither fully human nor completely alien, a bridge between worlds, born of transgression and transformation. Whatever Earth's response would be, he had made his choice. The fire that once consumed him now illuminated a new path forward, one that accepted sacrifice as the price of evolution, and found hope in the spaces between stars.